Hey guys, today we are looking at some Japanese 25mm Type 96 anti-aircraft gun rounds. And these were standard issue for the Japanese in World War II. Wherever the Japanese fought, these would be, and they were a fairly common item for US GIs to come across. They were also a fairly common item for US GIs fighting in the South Pacific to bring home as a souvenir. So you do find quite a few of them here in America today. And they're in a lot of collections, a lot of cartridge collections, and a lot of folks kind of have kept them in the family as sort of a souvenir for what their grandfather or great-grandfather did during World War II. This is just a little collection of a few different kinds. You've got red is the high explosive tracer version of this, and this is the front fuse here, and this actually does unscrew, and you can take a look if there was any high explosive. I'll just say as a preface that all these are inert, no gunpowder or anything like that, so they're safe to handle. And this would just be the standard tracer round. This guy right here is kind of interesting because it is a dedicated training round. And that would just be for sort of a dummy round for cadets to use in manipulating and loading the round and everything. And it actually started out life as that. It has never been made to be a live round. As you can see, there's really nothing there for a primer or anything, just a hole to show that it is inert. And it's got only a couple identifying marks, a couple of very tiny kanji on it. And again, you can unscrew that to sort of see where the fuse would go. You've got this guy with the green tip, and that's just a different kind of fusing for a high explosive round. Really functionally the same. This one actually came off of a US military display board to show soldiers sort of what they might be finding in theater, maybe explosive demolitions and whatnot, just to see what they'd be up against if they had to defuse or destroy anything. And you can see where the primer would have been screwed in on this one right here. And I don't know that a primer was ever actually screwed in on that one. And then you have this one with the remains of sort of the maroon or blue paint job on it, which I believe is just a standard, again, high explosive. This does unscrew, and this one is actually not a tracer. I've had the tip out of this one, and there's no tracer chamber on the bottom. The interesting thing about this one is it actually has some kanji here on the side, which definitely was not factory. I do believe it was put on by maybe a US GI, maybe a bored Japanese soldier during the war when he's sitting around on an island, or it could have been sold as a souvenir to US soldiers in occupied Japan. I know that some pieces were done like that, and I have seen that for 20mm rounds and whatnot, sort of a memento for having been in Japan. And you've got this one here with some kanji on the bottom, which I do believe is factory. I don't believe that was carved or anything like that. But the really interesting thing is sometimes you do find these that have really been there and seen it and done it. These are all very nice to collect, but then you find ones like this. And this is one that has definitely been on the battlefield for quite some time. You can see that the shell casing is actually worn through in a number of places. You can actually see, if you turn it over like this, you can actually see how deep the tip seats in these. It actually goes a little bit beyond that. That's the tip that you're looking at through a hole in the shell. And these have been together for quite some time. Where it came from, I really don't know. I was told it came off of Saipan in the Marianas. That might be the case. I could tell you the story that it came from Mount Suribachi and it had been firing at the US Marines trying to raise the flag there. I don't know. Nobody knows. No one has any documentation. But it does bring up a good point. that there's a lot of unscrupulous dealers who will try and sell you on the story, not the item itself. They will make up a really great story and charge a really hefty amount, and you'll think you're buying something great when really nobody knows. I was on eBay recently and I saw somebody selling just expended .50 caliber tips that have obviously come off a target range or something like that. And their claim was they came from the Battle of the Bulge and they were trying to get $120 a piece. Now that's a 50 cent to maybe $1 item. So charging that kind of money with no documentation seems a little bit unscrupulous to me. And I really hope that nobody falls for that. And if really the only takeaway you get from this video is buy the item, not the story, please, please always remember that when you're collecting. However, sometimes you do know where something came from, and this is one that I do know where it came from. This was given to me by a friend who found it diving off the coast of California, off of Ventura, which is just north of Los Angeles, between Ventura and the Channel Islands. Now, a number of Japanese submarines were actually active in that area, and even just around Santa Barbara got shelled in 1942 by a Japanese sub. So the possibility is that this actually came off of a Japanese submarine. I'd like to believe that. I have no way to prove that, but it is certainly compelling in that we know where it came from. We know Japanese subs were there. The 25 millimeter was carried by Japanese submarines. So that's a very good possibility. An equally good possibility is that the US Navy was conducting weapons tests with captured Japanese equipment, and this is one of the shells that was expended during those tests, especially since there's a lot of naval target ranges around there. Either way, interesting round. Definitely been under the sea for quite some time, and it's just one of those things that really makes collecting fun. Hope you've enjoyed seeing this. Thanks for watching.